She texted, "Don't open room 314, so I did. The text came while I was ironing a shirt I didn't want to wear. A white message bubble slid across my screen with the cool assurance of a dealer laying down a winning card. Don't open room 314. If you love her, stay in 312. No name, no emoji, just that. Outside my window, the city ran like a film slightly too fast, cars shearing by, bus brakes sighing, neon stitching the wind. Our apartment had been gutted for a burst pipe, so the hotel was supposed to be a neutral place, a place that smelled like limes and clean towels and nothing else. Claire, my wife of 4 years, event planner, champion of good lighting, had gotten us a deal at the same boutique hotel hosting her gala. She was down in the ballroom conjuring miracles out of folding tables. I was upstairs trying to make myself look like a man who had slept. I stared at the text long enough to see my face ghosted in the glass. 312 was the room the hotel had given me after a front desk mix-up, the kind you accept because you're tired. Claire was officially in 318, 2 doors down and a lifetime away, so she could take late calls, which made sense while also not making sense at all. I wrote back, "Who is this?" Because that is what you do when you want to look like a reasonable person. The dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. Then, someone who knows the difference between a door and a mirror. I laughed, quietly, the way you do at a stranger's cleverness when it comes for your throat. I put the phone face down on the dresser and pressed the iron into the shirt like it had caused all this. Heat rose and vanished. My chest felt like a room with bad air. At 7, Claire swept into the lobby in her black dress like a swallow curving through summer. She saw me and smiled, the smile that had ruined me the first time. Startled delight, a flare she never learned to ration. She kissed my cheek, adjusted my tie, and told me to mingle while she played air traffic control for florists and donors and a quartet that was always on the verge of tuning. "You look good," I said. "You look like you missed me," she said, and for a second the world was simple. We did what married people become excellent at. We glided. I shook hands, said the right things, stood near a window when the room got too warm. Claire worked the floor like a conductor. People softened when she spoke, as if someone had opened a window inside them. When she finally took a break, she leaned against the shadowed wall beside me and let her head tip toward my shoulder. Grapefruit perfume rose from her wrist. "You okay?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes followed the reflection of the crowd in the window. "Sometimes I think I'm two people," she said. "The one who can do this," she gestured at the room, "and the one who wants to disappear into something that doesn't need a spreadsheet." "Like us," I said, because the joke was easy. Her smile flickered as if a moth had flown through it. "Maybe," she said. Then someone called her name and she squeezed my hand twice, the code that used to mean I'm with you, and slipped away. At 10, I rode the elevator alone. 2 couples were arguing softly in the hall as I passed. I swiped into 312 and stopped. On my pillow lay a keycard tucked into a folded note. In a hand I didn't recognize, 314, 10:30, don't knock. I stood in a room that had decided to become a trap and listened to the blood in my ears. I thought of the text. I thought of the way Claire's eyes had slid past mine when she said maybe. I told myself I would throw the key into the trash. I told myself I would lock the door, take a shower, and read emails until sleep arrived like an indifferent guest. I told myself a dozen adult things, all of them reasonable, none of them true. At 10:26, I walked down the hall. I told myself curiosity is not a crime. I told myself I would open the door just enough to prove it was a prank or a mistake or both. The key hummed against the slot. The lock gave its polite, treacherous click. Room 314 was lit the way secrets are lit, dim, warm, as if the light itself had a hand over its mouth. The curtains were half-drawn, letting in a stripe of city. On the table stood a bottle of sparkling water beating like a nervous forehead. The air held the same grapefruit Claire wore, but sharpened with something cooler, mint, maybe, or the beginning of rain. "Close it," a voice said, low, even, a woman's voice. I complied. When my eyes adjusted, I saw her leaning against the far wall as though the room were a page and her body a neat underline. She wore a silk slip the color of dusk and heels she had not bothered to remove. Her hair was pinned up and already losing the argument. A few strands traced her neck like lines learning to write. I knew her, Nora, Claire's friend and sometimes collaborator, the woman who could make a room feel like it belonged to you just long enough to buy it. "Nora," I said, because the script in my chest had torn itself up. She watched me the way a lifeguard watches a strong swimmer, interested, unpanicked. "Hi, Daniel." "I got a text," I said, as if that explained anything. "I sent it," she said. Silence expanded like a bruise. "Why?" I asked, and heard how small the word was. She crossed to the table and poured 2 glasses of water with the ceremony of a bartender who knows this is not why you came. "Because I like you," she said, "and because I am tired of being the hinge on other people's doors." I didn't take the glass. "That's a poet's answer," I said. She smiled. "Better than the accountant. All right. The accountant's version, Claire has been seeing someone. It started as work and grew teeth. It's not an accident, it's a choice. I tried to talk her into telling you. She wasn't brave enough. So I decided to force brave on the situation." My laugh came out wrong. "By inviting me to what? Cheat back?" She didn't flinch. "By inviting you to look in a mirror before she shatters it. If you want to walk out, walk. If you want to stand in here and let the idea of another life move through you, stand. I'm not going to pretend this is noble, but it is honest." "Who is he?" I asked, buying time with a question shaped like a weapon. Nora shook her head. "Not my name to give, yet." I took the glass. The water was cold enough to make my teeth feel clean. The night breathed under the door. Someone laughed 2 rooms away and the floorboards carried the sound to us like a sparrow. "You texted, if you love her, stay in 312, I said, "and then you left me a key." "I wanted to give you both doors," she said. "I know that's cruel, but so is pretending this hallway doesn't exist." She moved closer, not predatory, not coy, just a deliberate arrival. Up close, she smelled like citrus and rain on stone. Her collarbone lifted when she inhaled. My chest made a sound I pretended was only a sigh. "You're beautiful," she said in a voice so gentle it made the word sound like a fact instead of a tactic. "And careful. I like careful men. They break like good bread." "That's a terrible metaphor," I said, but I was smiling and she saw it. She reached up and touched my tie, smoothing it as if it belonged to her. The gesture was so domestic my knees forgot their job. She didn't try to kiss me. She just let her fingers rest on my sternum, a warm comma in a sentence that had been going on too long. "Tell me to stop," she said. I thought about Claire in 318, the shape her shoulder makes in a dark room. I thought about the man I still believed I was, the man who could help and fix and provide like a useful lamp. I thought of all the evenings we'd spent together with the TV murmuring in the corner while we scrolled our separate lives. I thought of the way Nora had said hinge, as if the word itself were tired. "Don't stop," I heard myself say. She didn't lunge. She stepped into me the way you step into a warm bath, slow, certain. I felt the softness of silk against my shirt, the glide of her hand at my neck, the question in her breath. When our mouths met, it wasn't fireworks. It was a match struck in a dark room, a small, bright, dangerous mercy. We kissed like we were verifying identities. My hands found her waist. She made a sound I will hear when I am old and pretending I've forgotten everything. And then I stepped back. It wasn't chivalry or guilt. It was a kind of gravitational correction, the body's way of reminding the heart it still has work. I saw a flicker of disappointment in Nora's face, but also something like relief, respect, maybe, or the knowledge that I hadn't used her to become someone I didn't recognize. "I can't," I said, and I believed it. "You can," she said, "but you won't. There's a difference. That difference is why I texted you." We stood there breathing like we had run upstairs. The city pressed its forehead to the glass and listened. Nora walked to the desk, slid a thick envelope toward me, and tapped it with 2 fingers. Inside, photographs, grainy, taken at a distance, but clear enough to name. Claire on a cafe patio with a man I knew by reputation. A donor, mid-40s, elegant jaw, the kind of smile money gives you lessons in. The same man with his hand at the small of her back as they walked into a brownstone. The same man laughing with her in a booth, while her hair tumbled forward like a curtain. I looked at Nora. "How did you get these?" "I hired a friend," she said. "I told myself it was to protect Claire from a mess. I'm not sure that's true anymore," she exhaled. "I think I wanted a way to stop lying to you without becoming the villain in her story." "You make a handsome villain," I said, because I was tired of being careful, and the joke held me up for one more second. "She'll tell you it's complicated," Nora said. "It is, but it's also simple. She wanted to be a different person for a while. He let her. You can hate that or forgive it or both. What you can't do is pretend it didn't happen." I slid the envelope inside my jacket. The paper felt like a new spine pressing against my ribs. "Why help me?" "Because I like you," she said again, "and because I'm selfish. I didn't want to be a footnote in a scandal. I wanted to be a chapter in your life." She smiled, sad and bright at once. "Even if the chapter is this room and this almost." We didn't kiss again. I touched her cheek with the back of my hand, the way you test a child's temperature. She leaned into it for a heartbeat. When I opened the door, she stayed where she was, a quiet silhouette, a door I could have walked through and didn't. I knocked on 318. Claire opened in a hotel robe, hair damp, a towel slung like a flag over her shoulder. Her eyes took in my face, calculated fast, and filed away the result. "Hey, you," she said, easy, as if everything were fine and we were our best version. "We need to talk," I said. In our marriage, those words had always meant logistics, rent, schedules, a plant allegedly dying of neglect. This time they meant bones. We sat at the little table with the polite lamp and the 2 bottles of water and the silence that knows all the words. "I know," she said first. "Do you know that I know?" I asked. She closed her eyes and nodded. When she opened them, she had made a decision. "I met him when the foundation hired me to do their winter gala," she said. "He listened to me like everything I said was news. I felt awake. It took me by surprise. I let it. I told myself it was a phase. Then I told myself it was research for a life I might want. Then I stopped telling myself anything." "I got a text," I said, "and then a key." Her mouth tilted. "Nora. She thinks you're not brave." "She's not wrong," Claire said, and a tear jumped out of her eye as if the air had pushed it. She wiped it away with an annoyed sound. "I didn't want to lose you. I also didn't want to lose what it felt like to be wanted by someone who wasn't built into my mornings." I set the envelope on the table without opening it. It sat there like a small animal we had to decide to let out or not. "What do you want now?" I asked. I want us, she said, and she meant it the way a child means it when they want a toy and the moon. But I don't want the version where we pretend this didn't happen. I don't know how to be honest without breaking something. Sometimes breaking is honest, I said. We talked until the lamp began to look embarrassed. We said true things in crooked sentences. She told me about the night it crossed from flirt to touch, soft details, not graphic but not vague either. I told her where I had just been, who had been there, and how close I had come to stepping off my own edge. Her eyebrows lifted. Did you? No, I said, but I thought about it in colors. She laughed then, the kind of laugh you don't plan. We both did. It didn't fix anything, but it made the air breathable. In the week that followed, we tried every door. The open marriage door got a draft. We shut it gently. The immediate divorce door felt like an elevator shaft. We stepped back. We chose the hallway, the long one with the ugly carpet, where you walk and talk and sometimes sit down against the wall with your knees up because the conversation has become too big for standing. We went to counseling. We deleted numbers. We learned to say I'm hurt without adding because you. We took night walks where our hands found each other like animals sniffing. Some nights she slept in 318. Some nights she lay with me in 312, and we relearned the topography of our bodies as if we'd moved to a country with a different language. When we touched, it was soft and slow, mouths mapping, palms memorizing, a kind of hunger that didn't need proof. We didn't sprint back into bed like teenagers needing alibis. We let the ache educate us. I saw Nora once more before we checked out. In the lobby, morning soft around her, hair braided like a promise she might keep for herself. She looked at me with a question she didn't ask. We're trying, I said. She nodded. Try all the way or don't. Halfway is where people drown. Thank you, I said, for the text, for the key, for the almost. She smiled, small and true. You're welcome. Months later, when the apartment had been rebuilt and the smell of new paint had finally stopped reminding me of hotel hallways, Claire and I hosted friends for dinner. It was a simple night. Pasta, cheap wine, music low enough to hear each other breathe. At one point, she brushed past me in the kitchen, and the citrus on her skin rose like a ghost with good intentions. She put her mouth to my ear and said, I'm here. I believed her. Sometimes, on nights when the city is all windows and weather, I think about room 314 and the version of me that walked in there. I think of Nora's hand on my chest, the way a single touch can light a map of everything you haven't said. I think of the difference between a door and a mirror, how you can mistake one for the other until your forehead remembers the lesson. If you ask what saved us, I don't say forgiveness like a saint. I say the unromantic work of telling the truth before it turns into smoke. I say the small, necessary erotics of waking up next to the same person and finding another angle for your mouth, another reason for your hands to stay. I say the hallway unpretty, fluorescent, where we walked and didn't quit walking. And if I ever get another text that says don't open room 314, I hope I'll be able to answer without looking for a key. I hope I'll write back. I don't need the room. The door's open here.